And well, I wanted to make sure I got this weekend. So that's why you might see it as 15 points instead of 5. Okay, the bell ringers, agree them. They try to today. Try. Should have what, 4 after today? Yeah, perfect. All right, so the second wave, when and where, okay, when it comes to the means of resources to power these mechanisms, what is, it, right? What kind of engine we're thinking about? When it comes to the building material, well, what is it? All right, so I'll give you guys some time, and we'll talk more about some of these key innovators. And if we have some time, I'll show you a video and a movie trailer. Yeah, it's not a movie, I'm not gonna show you the movie, but I'll show you a trailer for it. Tom Holland's in it. Oh, you better now, John. Oh, what? Oh, that's water. There's a lot of big name actors in this movie. The Current War, it's called. All right, here we go. Second wave of the Industrial Revolution. Where did it happen? Where did it start? Audrina, since you've been yapping this whole time, go ahead. What do you got? All right. Where? No.
No, it's not Russia.
No.
No.
Oh, okay.
I just want to see if you were.
Really? Okay. Now pipe it down. All right, so the United States and Germany, good job. So we mentioned about England with that first wave, and we talked about a lot of these key innovators, okay? And if you're England, you want to try to hold on to that. You want to make sure that you can bottle that up, these ideas, these viewpoints, these inventions, and make sure that your patent, no one can just steal it. Fortunately, that's not the way things go, right? So when it comes to education, a lot of people went to England in order to learn these new methods of the Industrial Revolution. And they've taken these ideas and are bringing it back home. And for the United States, for Germany especially, these were areas that were looking to grow, looking to progress in this new technological future. So the United States, Germany, these two countries are recognized where the second wave starts. Okay, what do we got for the building material here? It's not iron anymore, but it's, Brody says I'm made of it, right? Oh, steel, okay, yeah, good. So steel, good. So when you think about the building material, obviously cars at that time, I know nowadays it's a little bit different. Here the same, obviously. When you get to battleships, right? When you get to tanks eventually, holy, are we talking about war? Yeah. Skyscrapers. This is where you start to see cities start to form in what we know of a modern look. So steel is going to be used heavily during this age and still to this day. Okay. So steel is going to be the main material used for building products. Okay. What else do we got here? For fuel sources, what do we have? Is it coal yet? Is it? What do we got? Jason? Yeah, good job, right? So I got gas, natural gas, oil, petroleum, you name it, right? And we're still very dependent on this. Okay, what kind of engines do we have? Steam powered anymore? What kind of engines do we have? Awesome. Yeah, good job. Combustion engines, good. And again, we're very dependent on this yet. Yeah, I know we're trying to make this shift to EV cars, electric cars, but it's not happening right away. And we're getting there. Sure, there's a lot of great car manufacturers like Tesla, for instance, that is bringing on this new change. But combustion engines we're still very dependent on. Okay, so the second wave is still around, still lingering. And even you can look at the first wave somewhat, right? See how some of these mechanisms are still used. Okay, so the second wave, what else do we got? Electricity. Okay, so when it comes to electricity, this is going to be harnessed, right, in order to power different mechanisms. All right, so we're going to talk about communication today. We're going to mention about how we're going to supply electricity to many areas throughout the United States, and how Tesla, and Edison are going to be duking it out for really supremacy. Right? And that's where that movie comes in that I was talking about. So if I get time here towards the end of class, I'll show you the movie trailer. It's really a conflict between Edison and Tesla over who's going to power America. And it gets pretty ugly, right? Edison, he goes down a path because he starts to lose it, right? Actually, Tesla had a better means of generating power. And Edison starts to smear Tesla to a point where Tesla is going to be left with nothing and pretty much poverty, even though he was one of the great minds ever, right? One of the greatest minds ever. And he goes to a point of even electrocuting animals in sight for people to see to try to scare people away of using Tesla's innovations of AC current. We'll talk about alternating current here. And he electrocutes an elephant for everybody to see. What a jerk. He creates the electric chair. Oh, so you can see where Edison's going down a weird path for sure. Okay. All right. We'll talk about Henry Ford today as well. I know I mentioned about the assembly line, but we'll continue that here today with the means of production, how it's advancing even more. I know I said no terms, but I do got one, Henry Ford. Okay, I know I kind of got cut off yesterday with the page break, but I just want to make sure you got Henry Ford there. And we can move on. So there's one term. Sorry, Maddie. Sorry. My bad. Angry. Okay. All right, there you go, Henry Ford. So we'll talk about Henry Ford quite a bit moving forward, right? And again, the assembly line, that's one of the biggest things here with his automobile business, right? Ford Industries, which we all know. And we'll talk even in World War One, World War Two, and in particular, how they're going to adjust the means of production from cars to airplanes to bombers. And well, one of the greatest fighter planes, the Mustang, the P-51 Mustang, which that's what's the car, that's the car is named after. They literally put the engine from the plane into the car. So you ever see a Mustang around? Yeah, sure, it's named after a horse, sure, but it's actually named after the airplane that they created in World War II. Pretty neat. All right, here we go. Second wave, the Industrial Revolution. So again, United States, Germany, these are the two countries that are going to lead the way, right? And they're going to spark this innovation and change, right, the game when it comes to industrial power. And let's face it, right, moving forward here to the 1900s, these are the two countries that are gonna, well, lead the way. They're gonna be the world powers moving forward. I know England's still there. They still have the strongest navy, right? And they are bringing in a lot of this innovation yet, right? They're controlling and harnessing. But the United States and Germany are right there with them, okay? And this is where it's gonna advance even more. All right, so where we start here, Henry Bessemer. So Henry Bessemer, he creates a new way, a new method of creating steel, a lot faster and more efficient. They call it the Bessemer process, right? So if you ever hear the Bessemer process, this is just a way of trying to literally infuse as much oxygen within molten iron in order to clear out the imperfections, the impurities, the bad minerals within the iron that allows it to rust and weaken. And as you do that, as you inject it literally with this, with air, with oxygen, okay, and you pour it out into whatever mold you're trying to create, as you're pouring that out, right, it's going to create a stronger, more durable metal, right? So if you ever see any type of blacksmith, a lot of times they're messing around with fire, they're sticking the blade in the fire, they're hammering out the impurities, the imperfections of the metal, and as it's heated and then cooled quickly, right, it makes it a stronger, more durable metal. Okay, so that's literally what he's doing here with this Bessemer process. So you place the iron inside this chamber, he heat it up to an extreme level, so much so that the iron melts down. And as you're melting it down, you quickly inject it with air, oxygen, right? And this is going to allow the metal to cool very quick. And as it's cooling, it's going to be stronger and more durable, right? Again, obviously, you're going to use this chamber to pour it out into whatever mold it might be. So it might be massive I-beams for a skyscraper. It might be different types of looks and molds for, let's say, a car or a battleship, whatever it might be, right? And this is how they're going to create mass-produced steel. All right, the Bessemer process will be used heavily in the United States, particularly in Pennsylvania. What city? Come on, you should know this. Yeah, Pittsburgh, good job. The Steelers, you get it? Okay, good, good. All right, so when it comes to the Steelers, right, it's gonna be a big part of Pennsylvania history, but US history. All right, third events. Who's spotting? Who's next? Is it Brady? Ben. I guess it is Ben, you're right. I feel like every time we get bring up current events, it just comes through the whole time. No, I think it is you, Brady, right? Yeah, Brady engaged, okay. You guys can talk about US Steel, how it's up in the air if they're gonna sell to this Japanese company. And people are like, wait a minute, it's US Steel, it says US in it, we can't do that, we can't give it away. Because we don't really produce steel anymore here, unfortunately, right? And then you can think back to Bethlehem Steel, just in Allentown. That was very important when it comes to creating a lot of products for World War II company. So you guys can talk, maybe that's something you can mention with the investment process. All right, Andrew Carnegie. You guys will talk about him more down the line in your other history classes. He's the one who brings this Bessemer process to Pittsburgh, right? The steel city, creates this massive production. Right, so again, this Bessemer process isn't going away. I'm just introducing it to you and how Carnegie makes claim to fame here in the United States, as we're going to produce the most steel, right, the world's ever seen, leading up into World War I, leading up into World War II, and after that, it kind of goes away. All right, communication. So Samuel Morse, actually, January 6th was when the first telegraph was sent. So we're pretty darn close. A little late, but hey, it is what it is. Anyway, with Samuel Morse, he creates his first telegraph and how you can send information, communication at the speed of light, place to place, right? Faster and more efficient. Why is that important? Well, when it comes to the economic needs, let's face it, right? You can ask it how many resources or the supply of a good you need for the marketplace. And that's going to change the game when it comes to economic needs for the market, right? And how this is going to advance the economy of many of these countries, like the United States and Great Britain, and these industrial countries like Germany. Well, Samuel Morse, he creates his first dot and dash system. I'm sure you guys heard of it before when you're making these clicks, these dots and dashes, and they call it Morse code, right? They'll literally have an alphabet there in front of you, right? The letters are associated with different dots and dashes. Like, what does that mean? Write notes down, okay? That's what it means, okay? And Ohio State's gonna lose. I threw it all into one, okay? So Samuel Morse, he creates this first telegraph, and he's sending information back and forth. And as you can know, it's going to be important for economics, but even military needs. Okay. Back in the day, what did they have to do? Well, you had to literally travel place to place on horse, or eventually when the car comes around, sure, tell people what's going on and what amount of a good you need in the marketplace, what you should set the prices on it. Oh, there's so much to it. Well, now you can just literally click on the telegraph and you're good to go. Right. The first message sent by Samuel Morse said, "What hath God wrote?" Ooh, extra credit? Maybe. Okay, maybe. There it is. What hath God wrote? That's pretty neat. There you go. So Morse code, the telegraph. Awesome. All right, we'll mention this when we get to World War One. Germany's going to be sending a lot of telegraphs to Mexico. What? All right, is that what's going to get us involved in World War One? Maybe. The Zimmerman note, the Zimmerman telegram. Ever hear of it? Okay, so we'll talk about that here soon enough, and how the telegraph is going to be used heavily for communication. Next, Alexander Graham Bell. Okay, so he creates the telephone. Okay, and as you can see, that changes even more, right? And now you can actually hear someone's voice on the other end, right? It's not as clear or as loud as what you think it would be today when you pick up your cell phone. Today we use more of electromagnetic waves to send information. Back then it was a lot different. Right, but Alexander Graham Bell creates the first telephone in the early 1900s, late 1800s, shortly after Samuel Morse. Well, about 50, 60 years after Samuel Morse. So you can see how communication is changing, right? You can see how people can actually talk to one another by the connection of cables, right? So when we get to the radio, obviously you don't need the cables anymore. You just need to be locked into the right frequency, and you can hear someone talking about whatever it might be, whether it's something on the battlefield, whether it's something with economics in the marketplace. Right, Alexander Graham Bell, he is also famed for many of these other avenues of interest. He actually created a telephone for people that are deaf. Right? So he actually worked at a deaf school for many, many years to help people when it comes to understanding what they need and desire, their necessities. So the telephone just kind of came around because he was just trying to help people out that were deaf. And obviously you can see we still use that today. It's just not connected to a cord as much. Does anybody have a house phone anymore? Oh, okay, some people do. Yeah, you kind of unhooked that a while ago. But it is what it is. Also, he creates the Bell Telephone Company, which is now known as AT&T. So, when you think about AT&T, it actually stems back to Alexander Graham Bell. Pretty cool. Anything else about it? Oh, here's his first words. "Mr. Watson, come here. I want to see you." That was the first word spoken over the telephone. Sherlock Holmes? David Watson? No. All right, Marconi. He's given the recognition for creating the radio. Again, this is cordless, right? You can use radio frequencies, right? Wavelengths here to travel and transmute information back and forth. And with the radio, again, it's a lot more efficient. You don't have to run these cables anywhere, right? You don't have to be literally connected by a cable. You can send this through radio waves, okay? Which people were worried back then. Wait a minute, waves out there, light waves that's carrying information. What if that floats through our body? What's going to happen to us? We're going to die? No. All right, so with Marconi, he's claim to fame is creating the first radio. He was from Italy, and there's a lot of skepticism about it. He was creating his own radio at the same time when Tesla was in the United States. And It's up in the air. Who did it first? Well, a lot of people just say you both did it. Great. And it's interesting, as Tesla was creating the radio here in the United States, he was on the same frequency as Marconi, believe it or not. I know it sounds crazy. And as he was tapping into the frequencies, he was hearing a lot of the emissions across the Atlantic Ocean, right? How far away is that? Let's face it, pretty far. And as he was doing it, he actually Tesla thought he was listening to aliens on another planet. Like, relax, it was probably just smartphone. They didn't know that, obviously, back then. So that's an interesting story about it. All right, here we go. There's Tesla. Okay, so Tesla is famed for creating AC, right? AC generation means alternating current. Okay, so this is power generation, electricity to many different homes, many different places all throughout the United States. Okay, so obviously you need to generate the power. Back then, they utilized still coal, right, to generate the power. Even still this day in Pennsylvania, we use coal generation, right? Coal power generation. We're very dependent on it still. Anyway, well, how does it work? Alternating current, it says it in the name. Okay, so this electrical current is alternating, moving back and forth, right? So as you connect these power lines and connect it to people's homes throughout, let's say, a major city, right, you can power this seamlessly. And with alternating current, it's more efficient, right? This charge is never going to wind down, right? It's never going to deplete itself because it's constantly moving back and forth from the homes to the generation plant, from the generation plant to the homes. So obviously light moves very fast, very quick. So as it's moving and alternating this generation, it's constantly feeding a current, right? A current that can power any household item. So in other words, AC current goes way better than what Edison had, which we'll talk about here now. Edison had direct current, meaning DC current. AC, DC? Then? Okay. Different ones. All right, so it's direct current. It's not near as efficient. So literally says it in the name, right? Edison with his power generation, it just sends electricity in one direction. That's it, right? And let's face it, as people are tapped in to these power lines, right? As that electrical current goes down, it's feeding into homes, right? As you get down towards the end of the city, what's going to happen? Well, that electrical current's going to deplete. It's going to be nothing, right? So if you lived on the outskirts of the city, unfortunately, you didn't really have much power because it was already used up. Direct current, it wasn't near as efficient. Alternating current, though, which we still use today, obviously it's a little bit different, a little bit more modernized, but they still use the same concepts that Tesla created. So this was literally a war, okay, between Edison and Tesla. Who had the greatest invention? Who had the greatest means of generating power to many of these major cities? And as you're looking throughout the United States, each city would decide, we're going to go with Edison's direct current or Tesla's AC current. I don't know, right? Anyway, Tesla couldn't do it by himself. Tesla actually worked for Edison early on, and Edison screwed him over, right? He had him working on his generators for his DC current, and Tesla's like, this is dumb, this is stupid, these keep breaking down, direct current's not the way to go. And that's why he came up with his AC current. And Edison gave Tesla $50,000 saying, hey, if you can just fix these generators and maybe come up with a new idea to generate power, we'll be good to go. And then as Tesla did this and came up with AC current, Edison was like, hey, I'm not going to give you that $50,000. This was simply a joke, right? Thank you for your hard work. Sorry, contract broken. So you can see how Edison's just like, nah, thanks. Appreciate it. You're a great mind and all, but people. We all know Edison obviously created the light bulb. Okay, obviously that was his claim to fame and how these factories and industries could stay open, right? Throughout the nighttime now. Uh-oh, we can about a night shift. Yeah, well, now you don't have to rely on just the sunlight to make sure people can see inside the factory. And they can just keep it going throughout the night. All right, again, with what happened here, the DC versus AC, all right, Tesla, he ends up working with Westinghouse, who was a person that created air brakes for trains, for locomotives. So he was very prosperous and he helped fund Tesla and his AC current. And this is where the country decided we're going to go direct AC. And as this was a conflict between the two, right, Edison was realizing he was losing to Tesla as they had the World's Fair in Chicago. Right, the World's Fair in the early 1900s here, right? Tesla came in and plugged in the light bulbs here and it just lit up. And it became a spectacle to see. And that kind of solidified Tesla as being the one who won the wars of the current wars of power. Right? And Edison just couldn't believe it. Obviously, he came up with the light bulb. His claim to fame was a lot higher than Tesla early on. And then as this was fading away from him, as Tesla had a better idea of generating power, right? Edison just threw a fit, literally. And he tried to discredit Tesla every way he could. So he tried to say that AC current was terrible, was awful, and would kill people as this was transmitted through home to home. So he would literally electrocute elephants. Oh no, he literally, what elephant? What horses, different animals, dogs even, and he would put a display on and try to discredit Tesla and his AC current. So is Edison a great guy? Not really, man. Anyway, as Edison kind of realized he lost, right? He eventually created the first motion picture camera. So that's something that you can, put a badge on, which is good. And that's kind of where it ended. Tesla, because of the smear campaign by Edison, he died a poor man, unfortunately. That's why Elon Musk tried to give him the credit he deserved, which is pretty neat that he named the car company after him. So, in other words, poor Tesla, right? Poor Tesla. One other thing, Edison and Tesla, these geniuses of the time, sleep's very important for people. These guys never slept, right? They worked about 20 hours a day, nonstop, to try to create the latest trends, new innovations. Edison would literally sleep with a weighted ball, right, in his hand, right? As he was drifting off at his desk, obviously, he'd drift off, the ball would fall, slam on the ground, he'd wake up, and like, oh, back to work, let's go. Can you imagine that? I like my sleep, don't you? Yeah, these guys did. They needed to stay on top of things. All right, you maybe heard of Tesla's coil. Tesla's coil is power. And this was an idea that he had later on where he could transmit electricity to homes without cables, without wires. And is this the first developments of what we know of Wi-Fi? Yeah, right. So I know these were early on ideas, but Tesla was really ahead of it. He really was. Okay, Henry Ford, you guys know a little bit about Henry Ford already. Created the Model T, the assembly line, and mass producing cars, mass producing materials here on out. And many of these other corporations will adopt this idea and move it into the future, making the United States the most innovative country, even still this day. All right, there you go. Are there any questions? I know I didn't get around to your bell ringers. I will actually turn them in. Can you guys just turn them in? The assignment, and I can look at them and grade them. You should have 4 of them for this week. Ben, you got that? Okay, good.